program, and I'm your presenter Ayubu Mzee. We are here at Marlborough House, the seat of the Commonwealth Secretariat. Today, it is the Commonwealth Trade Ministers Conference. And this is what happened. The Commonwealth Trade Ministers pledged to harness Commonwealth advantage at historic meeting. Commonwealth Trade and Investment Ministers concluded their two-day meeting in London today with a commitment to make full use of the Commonwealth advantage to boost trade within 52-member bloc. Ministers and representatives from more than 35 countries attended the meeting, jointly convened by the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. In her address to the ministers, the Commonwealth Secretary General, Patricia Scotland, said, "On trade, our family has never been more needed than it is today. We all know that we have been living in troubled times, and together we will have to look very carefully at what advantages there are within our family. Intra-Commonwealth trade has never been more important." At the meeting, the ministers focused on opportunities for the Commonwealth to strengthen collaboration by promoting intra-Commonwealth trade and investment flows. They identified key schedules hindering trade competitiveness and discussed how to overcome them through mutual support. During the press briefing, this is what happened.
Well, this meeting came at a pivotal point. The first meeting of trade ministers was probably as far back as 1966. We haven't had a Commonwealth Trade Ministers meeting since Hong Kong in 2005. So this was an incredibly important moment for us, with all regions across the Commonwealth being very widely represented. And there was huge agreement across the board between our nation states about what we needed to do, how we needed to advance the economies of the 52 member states, but also what we needed to do about trade. Many of you will know that trade globally is probably at its lowest level that it's been since the Second World War. It's about 1.9% in gross terms. There's huge opportunities between the countries because we represent about 2.4 billion people. That 2.4 billion people has within it great opportunities for growth and development. The challenge that we face globally with the slowdown and protectionism is a real one. And therefore, the Commonwealth, as a family, has an opportunity to exploit what we have identified as the Commonwealth advantage. Because we share common law, common language, common institutions, common parliamentary structures, that has given us a de facto advantage over and above that which was normally expect. And that 19% advantage is something which we, as a Commonwealth, are absolutely determined to exploit, to grow, and to work together. And at this meeting today, we were able to have a comprehensive opportunity to consider how, in practice, we do that. And so ministers were talking about the practical, implementable things that could be done and should be done, and the Secretariat has been tasked as the servant of the 52 to work with the members, all the member states and their officials to craft something which will be capable of delivering that which member states have wanted. And it was a truly memorable and important moment.
We hope to bring them down another 80%. This will help the region's competitiveness massively. And part of this will also be helping the region to trade with its neighbours and think about its external borders. That means not just thinking about road, rail, air, but also thinking about our ports, which are still a major bottleneck to doing business, and our lake ports.
The region, however, may not achieve these growth aspirations given the negative risk perceptions against local small and medium enterprises, an issue that concerns the African Development Bank.
And these are basically instruments that will allow a lending institution to provide resources to SMEs where we assume the risk, whether it's de-risking capital or what we call a first loss capital, so that if indeed the SME doesn't pay, we end up paying.
The Secretary General, United Nations Conference on Trade, Mukisa Kitui, warns on the laxity by member states to appreciate the transformative power of ICT to improve access to trade.
More than 70% of trade in the European Union now driven through electronic marketplace. The most advanced electronic markets in Africa are South Africa, Morocco, and Kenya, and they're at 5%. Uganda is at 1.5%. In a world dominated exponentially by electronic trading, if you are not visible on the electronic marketplace, you are not existent. So don't pretend you'll trade if those who trade can't see you.
Observers also believe that scaling the region's over 100 million people is key in achieving member states' industrialization agenda.
We need to produce higher value goods. We need to educate our people so that they can work and own and drive industries. And obviously we need to create jobs for the millions and millions of people who are citizens of East Africa.
The speakers and high-level panelists at this Trade Development Forum who were seated in these chairs all appear to have one thing in common, that stakeholders responsible for facilitating trade across the East African region and the continent at large have a unique connection that collaborates the private sector and the business community and government in order to boost economic growth, but mindful of the competitive nature of trade across world markets. Marco Misime, NTV Business at the Commonwealth Resort Hotel in Munyonyo, Kampala.
Hi, my name is Wale Idris Ajibade. I am the Executive Director of African Views Organization, which is responsible for the Spirit of Peace Initiative. The Spirit of Peace Annual Conference Initiative is based on the intersection of culture, economics, and peace. The conference is taking place from July 17 through July 19, 2018 at multiple locations, including the Ted Weiss Federal Building and the United Nations in New York City. The Spirit of Peace Annual Conference is an inclusive, high-level conference featuring indigenous traditional rulers, monarchs, religious leaders, representatives of governments, ethical and socially responsible corporations, and relevant institutions, as well as professionals across disciplinary faculties. The Spirit of Peace Annual Conference takes place in parallel observation of the United Nations Declaration of the Nelson Mandela International Day. This day is considered a sacred legacy of peace, forgiveness, truth, and reconciliation among all people. The conference website is www.bit.ly/Spirit of Peace Conference. This is also provided on the screen and in the video description. Please observe the existing trading pattern slides while I make my testimony on the upcoming Spirit of Peace Conference. We are expecting or proposing to accomplish the following items on the agenda for this year. Day 1, July 17, 2018. Faith-based representatives African kings and Native American chiefs are expected to make speeches in tribute to their ancestors on behalf of their subjects and participate in interfaith prayers and ceremonies for healing and harmony conducted in conjunction with various authorities. This is an all-day program at the African Burial Ground National Monument at the Ted Wise Building in New York. Day 2, July 18, 2018. Various kings from Africa and indigenous traditional chiefs from the Americas are expected to participate and speak at the United Nations, along with the various delegates and ambassadors and country leaders who are there in observation of the conference of the Nelson Mandela International Day, which is the 100th birthday of Nelson Mandela. The program is from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There is a quick UN tour before lunch, then followed by a lunch reception in conjunction with soft music entertainment and exhibition of portraits of world leaders, including kings, queens, chiefs, celebrities, and dignitaries attending the Spirit of Peace conference, as well as those who have been inspirational and actively engaged in peace. The portraits are drawn by Theo Pencil. This is an exhibition of his work, and he's a young Ghanaian artist who draws leaders of the world with hyper-realistic penciled rendition of the finest arts. His work will be available in a silent auction. The Truth and Reconciliation Forum will follow the lunch, and expected guests are President of Haiti, His Excellency Jovenel Moïse, and the President of Dominican Republic, His Excellency Danilo Medina Sanchez. They are to speak on healing and rapprochement between their countries in observation of Nelson Mandela's legacy of truth and reconciliation. Day 3, July 19, 2018. On July 19th, we have the Economic Summit with the country's stock exchanges. The presentation of the African and Caribbean countries' stock exchanges is a concerted effort to emphasize the imperative closer nexus necessary to move trade and investment between Africa and its diaspora, specifically for the purpose of promoting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. Goal 1, end poverty. Goal 8, employment and economic growth. Goal 9, develop industries, encourage innovations and develop infrastructure. Goal 10, reduce inequality. Goal 11, improve quality of lives in communities and cities. Goal 16, promote peace and develop strong institutions. And Goal 17, encourage global partnership for the goals. The Spirit of Peace 3 days conference is geared towards achieving all these goals. One of the challenges facing African and Caribbean economic development is the complex inefficiencies marred by the predisposed trading patterns. Therefore, the Trade and Investment Promotion Agenda is designed to promote countries' stock exchanges as a seamless standard partnership vehicle for capacity to lead and to manage strategic and sustainable investment, both inwards to the country and in building countries' capacity to global markets, in line with the strategic goals and objectives of key stakeholders and the international African and Caribbean investment landscape. Delegates from exchanges across Africa and Caribbean, as well as market makers and investors and prospective investors in those markets, will engage academic practitioners, experts, and thought leaders, both local and international. Where feasible, real-time case studies and business examples will be reviewed and analyzed with the actual investors and stakeholders to assess the value, risk, and long-term benefits of the investment initiatives, as well as the law that's guiding the ethics, the ethical and professional standards of the institution on the ground. In the context of process and systems critical to achieving desired trade and investment outcomes, that is critical in ensuring successful economic growth, especially investors' confidence on the schematics of the investment institutions.
To them. I had a meeting very recently with the Secretary General Gomes of the African, Caribbean, Pacific region. And so I think there is a great capacity for us to mutually support one another. I also understand that the United Kingdom has indicated that it is not its desire that any of the Commonwealth countries should be disadvantaged in terms of preferential or other provisions, so that they would be in a worse position than they are now. And obviously that's something which is very warming to consider. But we have been working very hard with all our member states. Initially, we worked with about 11 countries who came forward. We're now working with about 30, and there are more who want us to do the same with them. So that technical assistance, that technical support has been very important. But I think, although of course Brexit is of interest now, I think it's really important for us to concentrate on intra-Commonwealth trade, because the intra-Commonwealth trade, which is currently at about 17%, there's a huge capacity to increase that, because we have these similar methodologies available to us, which we have not yet fully exploited. There is an opportunity for us to create. Commonwealth Best Practice Framework Agreements, Commonwealth Best Practice Legislative Frameworks, Commonwealth Best Practice Regulatory Frameworks. And within that, there is, as you know, a desire for us to create a Commonwealth Best Practice Anti-Corruption Standard. And if we can build in these best practices into the way in which we work with each other, then we will have greater opportunity for transparency and effectively delivering the good governance, which is the foundation stone of good business.
Thanks for watching. See you next time, same time.